Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Hormonal Mama podcast. I am your host as always, Kara Drescher, and today on the show, I am talking with Marie Benoit, licensed clinical social worker and women's trauma coach. Marie is one of the brilliant minds behind Unbound Women. Unbound Women helps women, ready for this? With ancestral wounds and healing from them and becoming a new you, essentially. It is an incredible company. I love Unbound Women and I love everything that they stand for. Marie is brilliant. This conversation that we're having today is sort of a look at what ancestral wounds are, what that really means, and the steps that you can take to get yourself healing from those so that you can live a happier, better life. So, you will want to listen to this episode, so stick around. I will see you in just a minute. Hi, Marie. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here with me today.
Hello. It's so good to be here. Finally, we get to connect.
Yes, finally is right. We have been planning this for such a long time, and a lot has changed since we first talked, and I've just been so psyched. You have so many exciting things that you guys are doing with Unbound Women, and I'm super excited. I'm always keeping up with you on Instagram. I see all of the amazing things that you post, and I've been just excited to hear a bit more about Unbound Women. And actually, before we get into it, I want to kind of hear what this big transition was. But before we even talk about that, let's talk about what Unbound Women is and how this incredible thing started. Because there's a really cool story there that you told me before, and I love it.
Okay. Well, what it is, I just wrote something, and I think maybe I'll just read for you a little bit about what it is. So it says,
Sure.
Sister, to heal yourself, you must first illuminate the wounds that lay within. For when you shine a light, you begin to welcome all parts of yourself into existence, beckoning the outdated ancestral patterns to unleash, calling you home to anchor into a new path of being. So, Unbound Women, we are here to help you develop a mental, physical, and spiritual connection to your internal guidance system to reclaim your highest loving self.
I love that. And the way you read it, you're so passionate about this. I love it.
It's my life. I was thinking last night. I had a scare with my dog last night, actually. She's my 11-year-old boxer. We've had her since our marriage, basically. Her name is Karma. She's good Karma. We just love her so much. And I was going through a really hard, experience because, something was going wrong with her that could have been fatal. And I was able to reach out to my friends, my girlfriends, one of them being Krista, who is the soul piece of our Unbound Woman. And I realized that all my life, I always wanted sisters. I had 2 brothers and they were older, and we were kind of close, but they were 5-6 years older than me. And I would always watch movies like The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants or what have you. And I would just love like the bonds that women shared or girls shared with each other. And I was always bullied in school emotionally. And I was like, gosh, I know that's out there, but where are these women? Where are they? I want to find them. And I realized I finally have that. Not only do I have that in my life now, but I'm creating a platform that's calling this sisterhood in. And I didn't even realize that until last night.
How incredible is it, though, to feel that, especially when you have, that person that you can turn to, and then you kind of get this like, whoa, this is what I'm creating. This thing that I've craved, that I've needed for so long, and it's happening in such a beautiful way. How cool is that? How is your dog? Is she better?
She's got one of her muscles in her heart is deteriorating, unfortunately. So she's going to take some medicine, and there's just a small chance that it could not be okay, but we're really hopeful. She's really strong.
I'm
She's
going to
our first
say
little
super
baby.
positive for you. Boxers are my favorite breed of
Oh,
dog. My husband and I are always talking about when we have a bigger place, maybe we'll get a boxer. It's always a boxer or a Rottweiler. I like
I
both, but I
love that.
prefer boxers. My
Yeah,
husband is
they're
like,
amazing.
boxer it is. They are. They're most beautiful dogs. Well, we are pulling for you. She's going to do great. I love that her name is Karma. I think that's just so incredible and sweet and wonderful. And, I'm just excited that she's a boxer because that's,
Yeah.
like I said, my favorite. Um, so Krista, you mentioned she's the soul part of Unbound Women. And I know, you guys have such a great approach with this, mind, body, soul, that's something that's super important to me. And, when we talked months ago, you guys, the three of you had a different, message, a different approach to what you were doing in your business. So tell me
Mhm.
a little bit about what that was and kind of how that came about. And then, how you transitioned into this really unique new direction that is so brilliant, I think. I've been so curious for months to hear about, kind of how this new direction came about.
Yeah. So the first direction was more geared towards women with like gastrointestinal issues and anxiety, because there's a
Mhm.
huge correlation between that. And I don't know if you know this, but like 70% of the women in America report like some kind of gut issue.
Mm.
So it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Um, and like I was saying, when I was younger, when I was 10, my father passed away from cancer.
Mhm.
And at the same time, we had moved to a new community. And I wasn't safe in this community, like emotionally safe.
Yeah.
So my body was not safe. My mind was not safe. Nothing was safe. And so I developed pretty severe anxiety and
Mhm.
panic. And it showed up in my guts. And so I get sick every day,
Mm.
basically. And I just thought it was a body problem. And so for years, and so I was just in like denial city that I had anxiety for so long. Um, and so that was really near to my heart because of that experience. And I also felt so alone in it and very judged too.
Mhm. I
And so
hear
I
that.
wanted to create a place for women that had these issues to come and to heal, basically.
Mhm.
But what we found is that, those are just the symptoms to a deeper root,
Yeah.
basically.
Mhm.
Um, and there's three of us, and so the three of us have to work together and find out like who is our person, like who do we want to work with. And what we were finding, it wasn't just gut pain and
Mhm.
anxiety. There was a much bigger picture to that was like something that made each of our souls light on fire
Mm.
when we got to it. So we had a meeting together and we talked it through, and we realized who's the person that we're actually calling, basically. It's basically women that feel stuck or feel alone or just feel like kind of like in purgatory in their life.
Mhm.
And they they feel like this urge that like there's something else out there for them, but they don't know what it is and they don't know how to get there. So we ultimately want to help women stand up into their highest light or to their highest loving selves, basically
Yeah.
into their power, because I believe when you do that, you're going to discover your gift. And so many women feel like they don't have like a passion in this life.
Mhm.
And I can't imagine that because I'm so passionate, like you said, about what I do,
Yeah.
that would kill me.
Right.
Um, I was actually having a discussion with this woman that I met at a Super Bowl party at my neighbor's house the other day. And I was telling her about what Unbound Women is and what I do. And she just started to cry.
Mm.
And she's like, "I don't know what I'm crying." It's just like it's really emotional what you're talking about sounds amazing. She was like, "What I do is just so soulless."
Mm.
And that really hit me as
Yeah.
there's a lot of people out there that don't feel connected to themselves or what they do in life,
Absolutely.
you know?
That it's such a powerful thing because I've had that conversation with a lot of people that I love that just complete I don't love what I do. I don't have that spark. And it breaks my
Mhm.
heart because I feel strongly that everyone should have that passion, should feel that spark inside of them that they, you know, no matter how much you love your work, you don't wake up every single day going, I'm so excited to do my job. But what you do need, I think, in order to live a happy, healthy, really fulfilling life is to wake up and say, "Oh, I love what I do, even though today might not be the best day and not
Mhm.
terribly excited to work today. I love this work that I do, whatever
Mhm.
that is." So I think that's incredible that that how can I word what I'm saying? I think two things. I think it's really incredible that you guys have, changed your direction to really not change your direction. To me, you found your direction. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? You found that this is what we want, that you're super
Mhm.
passionate about. I
Like
mean,
an onion. It peeled itself back, basically. Yeah.
yes, well said. And I see it every day on Instagram, really, because that's where, I connect with most people these days. And I see your passion and I see the words that you use and the images that you use, and it's very deeply touching. You know what I mean? To really feel like this person gets it. Because I think a lot of people don't get it.
Totally.
Don't understand.
That's the
I don't know how to word it.
disconnection. That's why we're not connected. That's where we're helping women go, is from the disconnection. It's so interesting to me because even when I like have calls with women, and it's basically like a free coaching call, that's what I'll say
Mhm.
it is, because I can't help myself and I always want women to like walk away with resources or a
Yes.
tool that they can use, or just like more clarity on, like, even if they're not, it's not, this program's not for them, then that's totally fine. Like, where can they go? Maybe it's like some therapy or maybe like some different direction. Um,
Mhm.
but I always find that if they don't make a commitment and they get off the call, that fear just comes back, and
Yeah.
they find the excuse, the contraction of their nervous system tells them, "Oh, I can't do this," and they make it an excuse. My husband says I can't do this, or that it's not going to work for me, or it's too much money. But I always tell people, like, invest in yourself because it
Mhm.
makes all the difference. Like, you
It's
will make
true.
more money, you will have more time, you will have more energy. And I know this because I've lived this experience.
Right. You've lived it firsthand. You
Mm.
know exactly what committing to yourself, how it can and will change your life. And I feel like that's not even like really saying it. You know what I mean? Like I think something that you're saying that's really um speaking to me, if you will, is the way you said that you just can't help yourself. And that's the part that I think makes what you guys do so powerful, is that you want people or women, I mean people, but women, because that's your focus, to have the tools that they need to make this change in their life so that they can, I don't want to say move on, but move forward
Yes.
and live their life. I always say you don't just want to exist, you want to live. And living life to me is loving life and feeling passionate about every day, even if it's a crap day, because we all know those days, they are
Mhm.
real. But man, it's very powerful to me. And my
Thank you.
thought process sort of went on a tangent there. That happens to me a lot.
Yeah,
But
it's true.
I love
We
it.
won't let somebody into the program if we don't think they're a good fit, and it
Yeah.
might be because they're just not ready to experience it yet.
Yeah.
And I don't want to let somebody in that's not ready for it, because then
Yeah.
they're not going to experience that they want, and they're not going to have the results they want. And the women that come through a program, all of them that have come through, they have gotten the results they have wanted, and
Yeah,
then
they were ready
they were
because it's
ready.
it's a
Yeah.
big change and it's not, I
Hmm.
think a lot of the time people think, you know, a program like yours or mine or another coach or something that, oh, it's not a big deal. I mean, it is. And there's a reason that there's I don't want to say hefty price tag because it's not quite what I mean, but there's a reason why there's a large investment because it's work.
Right.
You're
If you put
putting
a
work.
small investment, right, into something, it's gonna be a small shift, if you think about that. If you
Exactly.
put a
Yes.
big, but people think, "Well, maybe I'm being taken advantage of."
Right.
Because that's the thing, they don't trust. And when you don't trust, your nervous system is stuck in contraction. And those are patterns. And that's what we're trying to break. We're trying to break these ancestral patterns that have been passed down to women. Women, we don't even trust each other.
It's
And
true.
that's a deep sisterhood wound that I'm also would like to help break. I want to normalize that women, we can trust each other and like, hey, I'm here for you. And I wouldn't be telling you this if it wasn't the truth.
Yes, see, and that's a beautiful thing. Something I want to ask you about. You just mentioned the what did you say, ancestral wound? I think is what
Mhm.
you said. I want
Mhm.
to talk to you more about that
Yeah.
because that's something that you talk a lot about. And I think there's just such a beautifully unique approach there. And that's something that I think is super special about what you guys do. And I would really love if you could elaborate a little bit more on kind of what that means in
Yeah,
terms of like
definitely.
being passed down, because I think that's just what you talk about is so exciting. And like here I am like, oh, tell me more, I'm so excited. But it's just such an amazing approach. And I was having a conversation with my sister-in-law, who's one of my best friends. We are having a conversation earlier tonight, and we were talking about her grandmother. And her grandmother wanted so terribly to be a librarian, but she couldn't, basically because she was a woman,
Yeah.
and she couldn't work. And there was all this stuff that through our conversation I kept thinking of you, because the way we were talking about it, it just was so much of what her grandmother experienced, and how my sister-in-law is trying very hard right now to make a change in herself,
Mhm.
not based on, but related to what her grandmother couldn't do, that she's like, well, I'm
Yeah.
gonna do, and just made me
Yeah.
think of you. So
Mhm.
if you could share a little bit about that, I would love that, because I think it's just so fascinating and
Yeah.
very real.
Well, so trauma in Greek actually means wound, which I think is amazing.
Didn't know that.
And I think the word trauma gets used a lot around the world now.
Yes,
And
it
I really
does.
like the word wound because that's what it means anyways. We all carry wounds.
Yep.
Everybody has been wounded in some way. And ancestral wounds just means that literally you can pass down wounds through your DNA, epigenetics, and through your nervous system.
Hmm.
And so when trauma occurs like cellular to a cellular level, your cells actually change basically.
It's crazy.
And
Well,
Dania talked all about this in our their 13-week program. And what I really specialize in is in the nervous system.
mm-hmm.
And we pass down wounds through the nervous system. It's through dysregulation. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you have a mother that couldn't get a job as a librarian and she's experiencing a lot of overwhelm and anxiety because of that, and she has you in her womb while this is happening, you're going to experience that cortisol levels that's being taken into you, and you share a nervous system with her. And so then you come into the world with already those patterns of dysregulation built into you.
I'm speechless right now, because that's so, to me, there's kind of two parts there. It's fascinating because you think to yourself, oh my God, what? But then
Mhm.
for me, being who I am, the other part of me is like, it's incredible the way our bodies work. It's incredible the way our body works down to a cellular level, and more. It's incredible because it makes so much sense.
It makes so much sense. And yes, yes.
Right? That's what's so incredible about it, is that it makes sense to me. It's when it blows your mind when you think about it at first, and then you're like, wait, why is
It's
that
been the
mind
most amazing
blowing?
thing. The last 10 years, I've been putting these puzzle pieces together because I love learning. And
Mm-hmm.
every time I learn something new, I'm like, yeah, that makes
It
so
all
much
makes
sense.
sense.
That makes sense. And I'm starting to be like, trust myself more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, unfortunately, last month I got one of the strands of COVID and it
Ugh,
wasn't super fun.
no.
And this week I got like a cold sore in my mouth. And I was
Ugh.
that's really weird. Like, I don't ever get cold sores. And I was like, I wonder if my body is like still like really like, my immune system's pretty down still because of COVID. And then I looked it up and there's like a pretty big link between that and COVID. And I was like, oh my God, I
It
was
makes
right. Like,
sense. Ugh.
my immune system is still down. Like, yeah. So that gave me more knowledge of like supplements that I could be taking to help myself. But I did not used to trust my body. And actually, just the sisterhood of even having Dania in my life, because Krista, Dania, and I are like sisters, basically. She's taught me so much about my body. She actually was my coach and I didn't even know her that well, when I was pregnant. And she helped me so much. Yeah, she changed my life in a lot of ways because, like, when I was sick with COVID last month, I uh, kept telling myself what Dania always tells me is that your body is capable of healing itself. It's an organism that can heal. And I love that. And so I just kept repeating that to myself because I kept getting in that like old pattern of thinking like, this is the worst. I'm never going to feel better. I'm going to be one of those people that's sick forever. Da 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 da. Yeah.
Mindset. Oh, right there. Mindset.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's something really incredible to be able to change those thought patterns, because that's part of all of this that you are doing, that you work on with people.
Mhm.
It's incredible to me to look at, kind of like two parts. I mean, there's way more than two parts, but just kind of what we're talking about in this moment here is, these ancestral wounds that are part of you. But then
Mhm.
there's the changing how you're thinking and realizing, because I know from personal experience, you get stuck in these thought patterns and it's
Mhm.
just, you can't go anywhere. You just can't,
Right.
you get stuck.
And I talk
Stuck
to
is the
women
best
every
word.
day that say stuck. Like every
Mm-hmm.
person I talk to says stuck. Um, and I used to, because I'm a therapist by trade too, a licensed therapist. And the first thing they ever taught us was CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. So you can change the way you think. And if you change the way you think, you can feel differently,
Mm-hmm.
which was helpful. But it was always very surface labor. And I'm gonna get into one of your questions you're gonna ask me right here to say one of the people that changed my life, who I would love to meet at a dinner table,
But I love that question.
is Bessel van der Kolk.
Okay.
Because I read his book, The Body Keeps the Score, and it changed my whole life.
I'm just writing it down. I probably spelled it way wrong, but that's okay.
He is a Dutch man. He's hilarious. He's like in his, I don't know, 70s maybe. He teaches at Boston University. And he's written that book. He's a lecturer. He's brilliant. But anyways, he talks about how your body is the first line of defense, your nervous system, your survival brain that takes in what's happening or
Mm-hmm.
internally even. And so you could tell somebody what happened to you till you're blue in the face, but like trauma or wounds are not logical.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter what you tell somebody, and like talk therapy can only go so far because your body has taken it in.
Yes.
And so that's what I talk about
Yes.
the release on our website is like that's part of our process is unleashing the energy because everything is energy
Yep.
and unleashing what's been stuffed inside you, what you've been like, that's the stuck. It's the
Mm-hmm.
energy that's literally stuck in your body and it translates to I am stuck. But you
Oh,
have tools. There are tools in the world to work through that.
yes. I'm so
Your
glad you
body
just said
wants
that.
to.
I'm so glad that you just said that, because people, when and again, I know from experience, I've gone through clinical depression and severe anxiety, and I've dealt with all kinds of, I'm just going to say it, garbage that comes along with it. And when you feel stuck like that, you sometimes you begin to feel hopeless and feel like,
Mhm.
well, this
Just
is
like
just
this.
what it is, and
Yep.
I'm just going to have to float through life, and either this will end at some point or it won't.
Right.
And it's hard because you sometimes forget that. Not forget, you don't realize, or you
Yeah,
believe.
you don't know. You've been what you've been told, right? And I just always had this inclination there was something more to the story. And I always felt like this. Um because I really didn't like in mental health how we would just slap labels on people and that's it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I just, even at the mental health center I used to work at, there was no like, there was groups, but there was no groups on trauma. There was nothing on trauma. And that boggled my mind. And so I created a group on trauma. I said, I'm going to teach people what trauma is and help them work through it.
That's
Because
great.
it's so imperative, and those are the people that needed it the most with the least resources.
Exactly. Yes. And that's something that is so common, because if you don't know where to find the help,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of
Where do you go?
right. And that's exactly like I was saying before we
If you
started
don't know where
recording.
you are, how do you know where you're going?
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's like the
Yeah.
best quote ever because it's so incredibly true. And
Mm-hmm.
and I mentioned to you before we started recording that the whole point of my podcast is
Mm-hmm.
to give people the resources that they might need. I have my own training and specialization, but even if I interview someone who does exactly the same work that I do, we're different people. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so important to me that people know that they can look for the help that they need, that they
Mm-hmm.
can find it. It is out there. So
But the thing
that's
is that women specifically, we don't trust ourselves. That's the huge thing. And
yep.
that's the point A to B that we hope to get women to, is to trust their internal guidance system. And so they say, well, I want to do this thing called EMDR, let's say, but I'm not totally sure. I don't know
Yep.
anyone that's done it. And so they make excuses for themselves,
Excuses. Oh, I
Like,
do know because I have been that person. I have
yeah.
been that person to make excuse after excuse after excuse. And I can speak for myself and say throughout my life, every time I made those excuses, it was
Mm-hmm.
fear of finding out the truth, fear of what is the truth, fear
Mm-hmm.
of getting better.
Right.
Because, and that one's one that I think a lot of people deal with is it seems illogical. Well,
Mm-hmm.
why would you not want to get better? But with a lot of these things, it takes understanding yourself, I think, and
Yeah. To
really
heal yourself,
realizing,
you have to know yourself.
yes,
Connect them. You have to
totally.
know
Oh,
yourself.
you're like reading my mind here. It's so
You know,
true.
and the funny thing is, you know what we're really good at doing, people just in general? We're really good at telling other people what they should do.
Yes.
It's funny to me. Like, we're really good at saying, like, oh, my brother should be doing this type of therapy. I had a friend tell me this the other day. I really want my brother to do like EMDR. And I said, well, have you done EMDR? She said, no, haven't done EMDR. I
Well,
said, the best way, I think, once you heal yourself, once you do the work yourself, you can heal the people around you. It's like I think of like a tree rooted. You're the tree, and branches start to go out and they reach other trees. It's like your nervous
yes.
systems, they connect because people's nervous system want to be regulated.
Mm-hmm.
You can't help but like, if you're yelling at somebody and they're totally stark calm, you can't help but reach down to their level, basically.
Yes.
So when you heal yourself, you heal the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
It's slow, but it's a process, you know?
Absolutely. And that I sort of chuckled there for a second because it's that, people here, I just feel like there's this perpetual issue with humans where we want that instant gratification. I want it now. I don't want
Mhm.
to do this thing that's going to take time and work.
Yeah.
And I know because I've been that person many times. I'm a very impatient
Mhm.
person. It's very hard for me to, take it down a
Totally.
notch and say, "Whoa." But
Well,
man, have I learned when I do take it down a notch and say, "Whoa,
yeah,
let's take our time with this." Those are when the greatest transformations of my life have occurred. That's when
yeah.
I suddenly have that epiphany moment in whatever the situation is and say, "Oh, why did I feel like I needed to rush through that? Of course I didn't need to. I need because you have to, you mentioned an onion earlier, the layers. And I
Mhm.
we are like that. We have layers and we don't always
And
realize.
we heal in layers too.
Yes.
We're never done healing. And I used to
No.
think that. I used to think, well, if I do this much therapy, this much coaching, this much body work, I'll be done. It'll be good. The rest of
Yep.
my life will be great. And then I was rudely awakened.
Wait a minute. I guess it doesn't work that way. But
Yeah,
but
even
that's That's exactly right.
Yeah. I mean, it even happened to me last week. I was a little bit triggered because I was waking up crying every morning. I was like, why the heck am I waking up crying every morning? And I was triggered because I used to wake up crying because when I was younger, the bullying, I would have nightmares about it, the isolation of it, the feeling unsafe about it.
Yep.
Um, and I thought, did I not heal this wound? Am I an imposter? Like started to spin a little bit. And I was like, slow down. Just let yourself feel something because these are wounds. They're trying to tell you something here. There's something here you're not hearing yet. And so I just slowed down. And I'd made it a really good routine recently to wake up before my daughter, before my husband, and go on a run. And so I woke up one morning with tears in my eyes and I went on a run. And I was running and I noticed I felt really exposed out in the open and unsafe. And then I went into the forest. I felt really safe under the canopy of trees. And I literally felt like the trees were like calling to me.
Oh, amazing.
So I went up to like the biggest, tallest tree I could find. And I just like kind of put my hand on it. And then I felt like I needed to put my forehead against it. And I started to breathe into the tree. And I started crying. And I realized that I was crying because my grandmother is dying. She's sick. And it's not that she's just dying. I don't have the relationship that I always wanted with her. So I'm grieving that loss. And I'm also grieving the loss that she never got to show up in her light in this life. And as I started to process that, instead of just thinking about the negative interactions that I've had with her, I started to remember the glimmers, like the really positive, loving experiences I've had with her. And then I started to notice all the amazing things my grandmother has done for our family. And it's not black and white. And so my body and my mind started to shift into this new perspective. And I started to forgive myself for having the guilt of not, seeing her in recent years. And I let go and I forgave her too for not being the person I wanted her to be for me.
That's powerful.
I just had a lot of gratitude that I could show up in my light, and she's a reason that I am here.
That's incredible. To be able to, you said a lot of amazing stuff there, but there was one thing that's really, I guess I want to say, jumping out at me, and that's grieving that you didn't get to have the relationship with her that you wanted. And
Mhm.
the reason that jumps out at me is because grief is such a complicated thing. And so often I talk to people and they don't realize that you can and should grieve situations. I feel like people often, I'm going to just use the word stuck for a second, get stuck on grief is when someone dies.
Mhm.
And people don't realize that grief is
There's a
so much
lot.
more complicated than that.
Yeah.
Like I always, with the people that I work with, because I, work with women going through infertility or
Yeah.
pregnancy or postpartum after infertility, it's a realization that you're allowed to grieve this thing that is taking so much from you. You know what I
Right.
mean? And it's such a
A
similar.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a loss, exactly. And I just wanted to mention that because
Yeah.
when you had this experience, it's so incredibly powerful, and realizing that you are grieving so many different things. And one of those things is this relationship that you wanted. And that's very, very hard. I just think that's pretty, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Incredible? I use that word a lot,
Thank
but
you.
it really is. And it's
Thank you.
powerful to be
It felt
able
it
to
felt
do
good.
that. Yeah, I bet.
I'm
And
I'm really proud of myself, and I can say that. I used to not, like, tell myself that, but I'm proud of myself because it was a spiritual experience. Like, if you told me I was, like, hugging trees and stuff and crying into them, like, a few years ago, I would have, like, laughed at you, and
you're
it's
like,
like,
okay.
"Really weird,
Yeah,
Marie, what are you doing?"
right.
Um, but I'm tapping back into my soul, and Krista has helped me do that just by being in my life. I cut off my soul a little bit, the spiritual side, because of religion. I had some kind of trauma around religion earlier in my life too, and so
Mhm.
I just said this is all bad.
Right.
But I'm coming back into it and standing in my own light and making it my own again. It doesn't
Standing in your own light.
have.
I'm quoting you on that. I'm just making a note here to myself to quote you, standing in my own light. I mean, gosh, that is, well, I'm proud of you too. I'll tell you that because I know what a big deal it is to work through things in life. I'm just going to generalize it right there and say that because it is
Yeah.
a big deal. And I just think that's incredible. I'm going to say it again. I love that word. It is. It's
And
one of my favorite words.
it's been a healing experience because I told my mom about it, and um I love my mom, but we've been through things. I carry the mother wound, she carries the mother wound, and so
Mhm.
forth. There's a whole tied into World War II, ancestral,
Yeah.
talk about trauma there.
In here.
Yeah. Um, but we've healing myself. She's also done a lot of healing, and we've come back together, and we have the greatest relationship now. And she's got Lyme's disease, and she's
Mm.
teaching so much about how to just be, even though she's so sick.
Yeah.
But I told her about the experience, and she said, "I think that's the most mature thing you've ever said." And how proud she was, and it just made me cry
I
too.
was just going to say that because that hearing something like that, I feel like even regardless of what the relationship is between someone and their mother, hearing something like that from your mother is very powerful. Very
Yeah,
powerful.
it was
I
very
think
connecting for us.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. Look,
Yeah.
I can't stop smiling because it's just so incredible. I did want to ask you, because I know we had talked about this when we talked before, and that was your experience having your daughter. I know that you had a major scare,
Mhm.
a lot more than a scare. Um, and when you told me about it before, it was very, very powerful to me. I spent weeks thinking about it. Um,
Mm.
and I would love if you wouldn't mind sharing a bit about, your story and kind of how that, I'm going to use the word experience, but I feel like that doesn't
Mhm.
do it justice, but how that experience that you went through has affected you and the work that you do and how you help people, because that was a life-changing experience.
Yeah, it was profoundly changed my life because I look at my life now before Isabel and after Isabel, basically.
Mhm.
So basically, everything that could go wrong to me went wrong with me in my labor. And it was about 2 days of laboring, and it
Mm.
still wasn't in the world. And about four midwives later, um, I had to go in for an emergency C-section.
Mhm.
And luckily, the anesthesiologist put me under because I could feel them poking me,
Mm.
and he had an experience where his wife could actually feel the C-section. So immediately that tapped him into knowing I have to do this now for her because I don't want anything else to happen to her.
Yeah.
So thank God. So he put me under, but the crazy part about that was that I just knew in my heart that I was going to die.
Mm.
Like I just had this feeling I was very close to death, trusting your body. And I was hyperventilating, obviously,
Mm.
because I didn't want to die.
Of course.
And he said, "You got to take some deep breaths here." And so I did. And I just remember thinking, I just accepted death. And I said, I might not wake up, and that's going to have to be okay. That's what I said to myself. And then I just did it. So accepting death basically has changed my life, I would
Yeah.
say, because I came back into the world, and it was really hard for, I'd say, the first 5, 6 months of my life then with a newborn, and I had PTSD
Mm.
because of
Oh,
it.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. So the only way I can describe it is that when somebody would come over that was obviously like really calm. I have like one friend that's so calm and I love her so much, but she came over one day and it was just us. And I literally felt like I wanted to rip my skin off because I just couldn't even handle being with her. And it made me really have this deep understanding of safety.
Yeah.
Like when you've been through something, your body has been through something, it's stuck in the past, like how bad it feels,
Yep.
you know?
For sure.
And I had to invest a lot in myself because I knew it immediately. Like, I can't live this way and like pass this on to my daughter because I'd already done so much work before her and like done
Mhm.
so much work when she was in my womb. And I said like, no, I like dug in my heels. So I basically just spent every day, like I did therapy and coaching, and I got on my mat every day. I started out that like 5 minutes every day. I'm just going to lay on my mat. And I did like 5 minutes of child's pose. And I felt proud of myself, I remember. And then it just picked up. And then pretty soon I was like doing 30 minutes of it. And,
That's so
I just called in all my people and all my resources. One of my friends is a mycologist. And so he gave me psilocybin to microdose, and that changed my life too, because that helped my body start to feel safe again and my thoughts to connect with my body again. And so I was not messing around. I pulled out all the resources that I could and all the people in my life. Yeah.
Good. That right there is something to be incredibly proud of, is, wanting this, I want to say better life. That's not quite what I mean. You not just wanting to be yourself again, really, a better version of yourself, but doing the work, that's so difficult to take that first step. And I love that you said, you know what, start simple. You said 5 minutes, and you did little by little, and that, look at you now, you've completely changed your life. And I'm sure, I think I am not an expert. I am not a licensed therapist like you. This is just, me thinking out loud here. But I feel like trauma, anxiety, depression, stress, all of these things, for those of us who deal with them, it's really hard to get a handle on it unless you take your time, like we were talking about before, and you treat yourself gently and say, okay,
gentle is the new perfect.
yes, you have to be gentle with yourself. I mean, gosh, I've learned that the hard way. If I am not gentle with myself, guess what? Nothing's going to happen, and it's only going to get worse.
No, I had to like trust in people,
And trust, that's such a big word that we're talking about so much, and such an important word, because trust is essential.
Yeah, I had to, one thing I think of, like, after that experience with my grandmother in the tree, I like leaned myself against the tree. I felt like I had to put my weight against it. And I just imagined like my ancestors carrying me.
Yeah.
And it's like in this lifetime too, like there has to be people, like a tribe. And that's what we're trying to create, like the sisterhood of women to catch you, the same as your ancestors, because like connection really is the most healing thing you can have in the world over anything.
I
Like
agree with
safe
that.
connection.
I love it.
You can be seen fully by someone. That's been the best medicine for me. Like I only have people in my life now that I feel seen by, and the rest I've let go. I'm not saying I'm better than them. I'm just on a different page of life. And it doesn't work for me. Yeah. You can love somebody from afar. And I do love all those people from afar.
I'm going to applaud you, because that is a very, very difficult thing for people to do, but an essential thing. I did that a long time ago. I won't go into detail, but I had some toxic, I'm going to call, in this particular situation, friendships, plural.
Yep.
And there came a point where it was kind of like, well, what are these people bringing to my life? Well, ultimately, they're bringing me constant anxiety and stress and questioning things and being anxious all the time. I can't live like that.
It's a pattern. We get stuck in it. I've totally been there. And you realize when you're out of it, it's like being in a toxic, any kind of romantic relationship. You don't realize it when you're in it. And then you get out of it. It's like, whoa. Like, I still grieve about some of those friendships too, because you know what? Just like my grandmother, it's not all black and white. Like I honor those relationships. And Krista speaks all about like soul contracts. Like there is a reason that you meet the people in your life that you meet. Like some people are supposed to like bring gifts to you basically, and some people are bringing triggers out to you. And triggers are actually gifts basically.
Right.
Triggers are showing you that there are wounds that need to be healed that were already there before you met that person.
Right. Oh, I'm silent here because like, it's just, you word it so well. It makes so much sense. And Soul contract. I mean, gosh, that's like
Right.
been in my head now for a minute since you said that. And like, it's true, I was thinking, about these toxic relationships and friendships that I had to let go of. But it occurred to me, there was a friend that I had who I adored. She was just someone I connected with. I had fun. We were always hanging out. We were always having so much fun. We had very different lives. She had 2 little kids. She was married. I wasn't. I wasn't married. I wasn't even, I think I was in a relationship with someone. I don't even remember. But our lives were very different. But we worked together and we just had so much fun. We'd go out, we'd hang out at her house, we'd hang out at my house. We just were always hanging out. And after a couple of years, I don't really know what happened, but we completely drifted apart. I mean, completely. Like, I've only, I think, seen or talked to her maybe 2 or 3 times over the past 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just interesting. This conversation is reminding me that, like, I didn't let go of a friendship because it was toxic.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, we were on different paths in our lives, and that's okay. But in
That's
this particular situation, I feel like neither of us could go where we needed to go if we had
right.
continued our friendship the way it was going. You know what I mean? It wasn't a bad thing. Our relationship
Yeah.
was wonderful, but there just came a point where I wasn't moving toward my goals, and I don't think she was either. And it was almost like we
It's like
drifted
you get
apart and we
stuck
both,
together
yeah,
because like
exactly.
how Krista talks about it is like when you make go through shifts, what I help women go through with their nervous system or whatever, any kind of shift, you go up another frequency. Like that's what I just feel like happened to me
Mm-hmm.
after that experience with my grandmother.
Yes.
I feel like I'm at another level of consciousness that I wasn't at before,
Mm-hmm.
and
Totally.
when you do that dance with people, it like prevents you and them from moving through what they need to move through.
Yes.
And I
Exactly.
was stuck for so long with my family there because I tried to fix my family so
Mm-hmm.
hard. And I
Yep.
poured all my love and all my support and all my resources into everybody in my family. And I forgot about me.
Yep.
And the eye opening part of it was that I had to realize I'm part of the cycle.
Yeah.
And if I don't do the things for myself, then nothing about this is going to change.
Well
Yeah.
said. I mean,
Yeah.
you said it, and that's exactly right. That's exactly right. All right, let's change gears here. Talk my fun questions. I mean, one of them is more serious than the other, but they're still fun. And I know you already answered one of them, but we'll get to that in a second. I'm going to give you both questions.
Uh,
We'll do the first one first, and that is, who are 3 people who have had the most influence or been the most inspirational to you in your life? You know what? We'll go with that one first, then we'll do the fun one.
Okay. Well, I would say the first person is my dad, who I called
Mhm.
my papa. And he died when I was 10. He was only 43 years old when he passed. He was an entrepreneur himself, and everyone he tells how much my spirit and how I look just resembles him so much. Yeah, he was an amazing person. He was just one of the people that he would light up a room just by walking in it, basically. He
That.
was funny, had a crazy sense of humor, and compassionate, very quick, and he had a lot of grit. So he built a business. He said, "I'm going to be a millionaire by 30," and he well surpassed that. So he passed on, but he was able to leave, his partner with enough money, and experience to have a life that she can be comfortable in. Now she's really sick, and so she doesn't have to work and she can heal actually. So like things happen for a
Incredible.
reason.
Absolutely. Oh, I totally
Um,
agree with you there.
yeah. And he was just amazing. Yeah. He was an amazing person. And I miss him still every day, but I feel him with me all the time.
That's great.
And I'm excited to tell my daughter all about him.
Oh,
Yeah.
she'll love hearing about him.
Yeah.
She'll love
Yeah.
it. That's awesome.
He was a bright spot in my life. And who else? So I would say I'm gonna say all family here. My husband,
Mhm.
I can't not say my husband. My
I get that.
husband has pivotally changed my life. I mean, I've known him for like since I was 19 when I met him. And we have a funny story. I didn't like him when I met him. I thought he was a jerk.
I love it.
And he won my heart over. It took some time. We were really good friends. And then we finally, you know, started to date each other. And I was just really scared because he was my best friend and I didn't want that to end. But I had to take a risk. That's part of life, is falling in love with life enough to take risks.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's been the best risk I've ever taken in my life is being with him, because he's such a good partner. He helps me grow and I help him grow. Like, you know, sometimes like he'll take the turn of like going to school or having this big thing, and then I'll take the turn. It's like a seesaw. We really balance each other, and we're just really there for each other. Yeah.
Makes me so happy.
Yeah. So definitely my husband, Kyle. And it's kind of like two more people, actually. It's my mother. My mother, for sure. She has taught me just so much in my life. And even though we've gone through a lot of battles and it's actually been very tumultuous for a period of my life, she's just taught me about how much strength you can have as a person and resiliency regardless, because she has been through so much shit in her life. And she still goes on, and she's so smart, and she has like this abundant like mindset that's come out of this, even though she's so ill. And I really admire her for that. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
And another person is my cross country coach in high school.
Oh, nice.
She was a pivotal person because I was very alone and didn't know what I was doing. I was pretty aimless and just felt really lonely at that time in my life. And she actually told a story about her father passing, and we were at the same age when her father passed, and how she would find heads up pennies when she would go for walks or runs. And I was finding heads up pennies ever since my dad passed, and I was picking them up. Just didn't know why, but I was picking them up. She told me that story, and it like all clicked for me. Basically, it was like messages. And so I have like a whole jar of these pennies, and I even have stories relating to like my first meet that I ever had and finding one like on the school bus step, and just some crazy experiences where you wouldn't expect these things to be.
I love that. I think that's so cool. And I love hearing stories like that. I love stories. I love hearing about people and things like that. And that's just something really special, I think.
Yeah.
So that's super cool.
She was a smaller part, but a big part still.
Yeah. Hey, sometimes you said that well. The people who play that really small role play a much bigger role than it appeared. What we'll say, like I'm gonna relate it to a movie for a second, not a specific movie, just movies in general. You know, a character that's on screen for 30 seconds, but ultimately plays such a huge role in the entire movie. You only see them briefly, but the deeper meaning of who they are and what they do for you or your life. Anyway, you know where I'm going with that. All right. Question number 2.
Okay.
And I know you already mentioned one of these, but we'll go through it again. You can repeat it or not. It's up to you. 3 people, and I always say people in quotes, that you could invite to a dinner party if you're into dinner parties. Some people aren't. So it could just be hanging out. You know, someone was talking about, what was it? Not shucking corn. It was something else. Green beans, I think. I don't remember. And I think she was, you know, her dream was like sitting on her grandmother's front porch in, I want to say in Alabama. And that was her idea of like
the image. I used to shuck corn on the back steps of our porch. I lived on a farm growing up.
Oh, amazing. I did not live on a farm, but I have very, very vivid, fond memories of shucking corn with my grandmother outside in our backyard. We had a pool, and the family would all come over to the pool, and my grandmother and the kids, we'd all sit there with our brown paper bags, shucking the corn. And it's just like one of those really, really fond memories. So it's really cool that you have a similar one. I like that. So these 3 people, they can be anybody or not people. They can be dead or alive or fictional or real or book characters or cartoons. They could be Fraggles from Fraggle Rock, if you know what that is, because I had a conversation with someone who had no idea what Fraggle Rock was, and it made me want to cry. It made me feel old. Please tell me you know Fraggle Rock.
I don't know.
No, it's a Jim Henson thing. Look it up.
Okay, I love
Jim
that.
Henson. It's like
Okay.
Muppets, but it's not the Muppets, but it's similar concept.
Okay.
Oh, I can't believe you don't know Fraggles.
Okay.
Best show ever from the 80s. I'm just saying. But I digress. Anyway, they could be anything you want. These three characters, we'll just say, to make it easier. So, and they could be animals. I mean, like literally anything. So who would those three be and why?
Well, the first one I said going into ancestry is I have a 10th great grandmother. Her name was Elizabeth Benoit. So her husband was named Paul Benoit. He's my 10th great grandfather. And they boarded a ship in France and came over to Montreal and helped found the city of Montreal. Like their names are on like a plaque and everything.
Wow.
And they lived actually where that plaque was in Old Town Montreal. And
that's cool.
I just think that's amazing to like board a ship, like to be French and then get off the ship and like go to this whole new place you've never been before. And then like found a city. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
But that gives me more understanding of where all this passion to build things comes from.
Yes.
Because it's in my DNA, you know, like they're builders. Like we just like to create. I love creating new things. And I could never see myself working for anyone anymore. Because I have to go on my own stream, basically.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And I get it. Yeah. Before you continue, I just have to tell you not only how cool that story is, but that connection that you made to understand yourself.
I just made that connection, by the way.
I mean, but it makes so much sense. It does. And just as a side note, my grandmother she passed away last in 2020 in the Christmas Eve in 2020, and she was a Holocaust survivor, as was her brother and her parents.
It gave me chills.
Yeah. And it's just talking with you. It's just so powerful to me because all these things about myself, I understand so much of me based on my grandmother and particularly her father. I'm a lot like my great grandfather who I never met. And, but not just personality wise, like when you were telling that story about this great grandmother and that, how do you describe it? Passion to build things. What's really interesting to me, just as a side note, just we're having this conversation, it just popped into my head. I'm an artist. That's one of the things I do is I make things. I like to sew in particular. I like to make wallets using vintage and antique fabric. It's just, I don't know why. I just started doing it when I was about 30. That's weird. And it's like deeply passionate. And what's so interesting is my great grandfather owned a textile factory in Vienna, in Austria. And it's crazy to me because I'm like, maybe some of these fabrics came from his factory. What? This is crazy.
Your DNA.
Right? And it's just, it's so cool thinking about that and knowing what, understanding what you're talking about. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I just had to share that because I thought you'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I do. I actually want to talk to you more about your history now because it sounds fascinating.
It is so fascinating.
Connect to some of what you're saying too.
Oh, awesome.
So, yeah.
We'll have to talk more about it. Anyway, back to you. I interrupted you and I don't want to do that. I need to plug my computer in. It's just
the funny side note is that somebody asked me if Isabel, we call her Izzy, if she's named after to anyone in the family. And I said, no, it's just the name that I like. And actually my name was almost going to be Isabel. Then it got changed to Marie and that always kind of stuck with me. Yeah. And I do love Belle from, the princesses too. She's a French princess, but apparently everybody called her Isabelle Benoit, which is crazy to me because I had no idea.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
Now you just gave me chills. That's so cool and unexpected. Don't mind me. Ow.
Totally.
I'm going to go off screen for 1 second because I have to get my computer charger.
No worries.
Oh, goodness. Oh, no. I'll edit this out. I promise.
Yeah. That's good.
Give me 1 more second. I can't reach it. Okay. Oh, come on. Is that the wrong one? Okay.
Okay.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
We're good now. Okay. So that is crazy and awesome. I had chills when you told me that story just now. I can't even. That's incredible.
Now my Siri's talking to you.
Oh, there we go. Oh, I thought it was feedback from me. I thought I was hearing myself. Okay, so you've got your 10th great grandmother, Elizabeth Benoit. You mentioned, was it Bessel van der Kerk?
Oh, sorry. 1 second.
Yeah, no problem.
I have a speaker on the background that will not turn off.
How that goes.
Hilarious. This one time I was like counseling with somebody, like doing EMDR or something, and like this like total like rap song just came out, like it was super inappropriate. It was just like blasting. Like I was like, oh my God. Like,
I love it. Like, oh, those are the best stories though. Oh yeah. Man. I get it. Oh, that's funny.
His name is Bessel van der Kolk. Yeah, he's actually, his family's Holocaust survivors too.
Oh.
He's amazing. His book is amazing.
So what was the name of his book? I'm just curious.
The Body Keeps the Score. It's an amazing book. Read it in chunks.
Check it out.
A lot to take in, but it's really good.
I'll check that out for sure. I'm making a note to myself. There's no more room on this paper to take notes. Okay, so you've got 2 for your super cool dinner party.
And the third one I'm throwing in the mix is Moana's grandmother.
Nice. Okay. I've never seen Moana, so that makes me kind of ridiculous. I should probably see it.
Well, I listen to Moana like every day because I have a 2-year-old that is obsessed with water, and she got to see this movie at her aunt's house, and now she's obsessed with it. So I show it to her sometimes, so I watch it. But my kids will not watch any movie. I don't understand why. Right? She only likes that and Encanto. That's it. That's all she likes. But it's funny to me because both those movies are about ancestral wounds and cycle breaking, basically. So I'm like, well, that's weird.
It works. That's really cool.
But I love Moana's grandmother because she doesn't go with the fray. She just does her own thing, basically. And she's quirky and she's funny. And that's who I want to be when I'm older, is Moana's grandmother.
I
just
love
doing
it.
My own thing, basically. Yeah.
As it should be. That's so cool. I love it. I love it. The 3
of them together and us would make a good conversation.
I think that would be an awesome gathering. I'm going to call it a gathering in case you don't want a dinner party. For me, it would be a dinner party, but that's just me. Not everybody likes dinner parties.
Maybe like a murder mystery party.
Ooh, now that, it's funny. Friends of ours just had a murder mystery party with family a few weeks ago, and the pictures were hilarious. Their son, who is, 13, he was part of it. It was just a whole thing, and it looked like so much fun. And they got to dress up and like, oh yeah. We do that sometimes. It's so much fun. Yes. We never do, and I want to do more stuff like that.
Do it.
Planted the seed in my head. We'll have to do that for sure. All right, last question for you, and it's a really simple one, and it is, where can our listeners find you and connect with you?
Everywhere. Well, we have a really special group on Facebook called Sacred Healing for Ancestral Wounds, and that is open for all women. It's a really good place to find support and connection and resources and to hear more about our program, but even just not that, just have support. So that's a great place to connect. And then we also have an Instagram like you were talking about, and it's just Unbound_Women_. Feel free to message me on there. I love connecting with people. And then through email, it's just info@unboundwomen.us.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, Marie, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today and to talk. This has been a long time in the works for us, and I'm so grateful that we finally had the chance to talk. This was awesome. So thank you.
This is amazing. I needed this.